The grand marble-floored mansion stood proudly in the heart of Islamabad's most elite neighborhood, its towering glass windows reflecting the golden rays of the setting sun. To outsiders, the house was the picture of wealth, status, and success, a fairy tale home for a fairy tale couple. But fairy tales, as often as not, hid their darkest chapters behind locked doors. Inside, Ariba moved gracefully through the tastefully decorated living room, her hand resting gently on the curve of her swollen belly. 7 months pregnant, she radiated an effortless beauty, long jet-black hair cascading down her back. Delicate features framed by a soft glow of maternal joy. Her almond-shaped eyes sparkled with quiet hope for the future, unaware that the life she believed in was already hanging by a thread to the world. Ariba had everything: a loving, successful husband, a luxurious home, and the promise of a growing family, but cracks invisible to the naked eye were spreading beneath the flawless surface. And at the center of that fracture was Fayez. Fayez was the kind of man people noticed. Tall, sharp-jawed, with the charm of a seasoned liar. He knew how to wear a smile like armor. As a wealthy businessman with political connections, his charisma was the envy of many. Yet beneath that polished exterior, Faison harbored secrets that now threatened to destroy everything. And then there was Sana, glamorous, seductive, and dangerously ambitious. Sana had entered Faison's life like a slow-working poison. She was everything Ariba was not: bold, fiery, and unburdened by the obligations of marriage and motherhood. Her glossy lips curved into a smile that could disarm the sharpest critic, and her eyes gleamed with hunger, not just for Faison's affection, but for his life, his wealth, and the status that came with being the woman beside him. But Sana was no fool. She understood that as long as Ariba existed, her dreams remained just that: dreams. The pregnancy, in particular, enraged her beyond reason. A child meant permanent ties. A child meant Faison would never fully be hers. And that reality gnawed at Sana's mind like a parasite. The whispers of obsession had long taken root in her toe. The late-night stalking of Ariba's social media. The anonymous calls to check on her routines, even the casual drive-bys near the mansion, all were fuel for her growing jealousy. And now, as she sipped her expensive wine alone in her apartment, her mind replayed the same thought on a loop. Ariba had to disappear. And this time, Sana wasn't going to rely on charm or subtle manipulation. No, her next move would be bold, irreversible, the kind of move that erased obstacles entirely. The perfect life Ariba believed she had was about to shatter, and the storm brewing in the shadows. It carried Sana's name. The days in the Khan household had taken on a strange, unsettling rhythm. Ariba could feel it: the subtle shifts, the lingering silences, the half-hearted kisses that once carried warmth but now felt hollow. Like routine gestures performed out of obligation, Faison, her husband of 4 years, was drifting emotionally. Physically, in every sense that mattered. At first, Ariba told herself it was temporary. Work stress, he'd mumbled more than once, loosening his tie and sinking into the sofa with vacant eyes. He'd complain of endless meetings, impossible clients, and mounting responsibilities. But his excuses were rehearsed, too polished. And behind the words, Ariba sensed something deeper, something far more dangerous than mere deadlines. Faison came home later with each passing week. His phone, once casually left on the kitchen counter, was now locked, face down, guarded like a state secret. His cologne lingered longer than it should, expensive and unfamiliar. And his gaze, the one that once softened at the sight of her, now flickered with distraction, even irritation. Ariba wasn't naive. She had heard the whispers, seen the way women at parties eyed her husband. Faison was charming, wealthy, and ambitious. A dangerous combination that attracted admiration and temptation in equal measure. But she never imagined he'd fall. For someone like Sana, the name alone left a bitter taste in Ariba's mouth. What began as a harmless acquaintance at a corporate event quickly spiraled into something far more insidious. Sana had inserted herself into Faison's life like a vine, coiling tighter with every interaction. She was bold, stunning, and unapologetically flirtatious. The kind of woman who turned heads and thrived on stolen attention, but it wasn't just Faison's attention she craved. It was his world, his power, his respect, his wealth, and Ariba. She was merely an obstacle in the way. Sana's obsession festered beneath her polished exterior. When casual flirting failed to unseat Ariba, Sana's tactics escalated. She followed Ariba's routine with frightening precision, noting the doctor's appointments, tracking social events, even lurking outside boutiques where Ariba shopped for baby clothes. Her obsession turned digital to fake social media accounts, anonymous messages laced with subtle threats, and an endless archive of Ariba's photos saved on her private devices. Every post Ariba made, every smile captured in public, it ignited a new wave of envy in Sana's heart. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Sana intensified the pressure on Faison. "You don't love her," she whispered in the shadows of his office, her perfectly manicured nails tracing his jawline. "You deserve to be free. You deserve happiness." With me, Faison, torn between guilt and lust, offered empty promises. "It's complicated," he'd sigh, avoiding eye contact. "Ariba's pregnant. It's not the right time." But Sana wasn't interested in timing. She was interested in results. "You'll never be truly mine while she's in the picture." Sana seethed, her patience thinning. "The longer you wait, the messier this gets." Back at home, Ariba's instincts screamed louder with each passing day. The emotional distance, the secretive behavior, the scent of unfamiliar perfume clinging faintly to his shirts. It all painted an ugly picture she could no longer ignore. One evening, as Faison prepared for yet another late meeting, Ariba finally confronted him. Standing by the bedroom door, arms crossed over her belly, she spoke softly but firmly. "Who is she?" His eyes widened briefly, the flicker of guilt undeniable before the mask slipped back into place. "What are you talking about?" he replied coolly, reaching for his watch. "Don't insult my intelligence." Ariba's voice trembled, equal parts hurt and anger. "I know there's someone else," Faison sighed dramatically, shaking his head as if exhausted by the accusation. "You're imagining things, Ariba. You've been emotional. Hormonal. It's normal. Don't you dare blame my pregnancy for your lies," she snapped. The vulnerability in her voice replaced by steel. But Faison was already walking away, slipping his watch onto his wrist. "You're paranoid," he muttered. "I work hard to give you everything, and this is how you repay me." Accusations. Ariba's heart cracked, not just from his betrayal, but from his gaslighting, the cruel manipulation designed to make her doubt her own reality. As the front door slammed behind him, Ariba stood alone, the faint sound of her baby's heartbeat echoing in her memory from the last doctor's visit. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't emotional. She was right. And though she didn't yet know the full extent of Sana's plan, deep down, Ariba understood. The cracks in her marriage weren't just growing, they were about to shatter everything Sana had always believed. In two things, beauty opened doors, and money made people disappear. It was a philosophy that had served her well so far, slipping into Faison's life, wrapping him around her finger, and almost tasting the victory of becoming the woman by his side. But almost wasn't enough. Ariba's existence still loomed over her like an unscalable wall, blocking her path to the life she believed she deserved. The pregnancy was the final straw. With every month that passed, Ariba's growing belly wasn't just a symbol of new life, it was Sana's defeat. Personified. As long as that woman carried Faison's child, Sana would remain the hidden mistress. A dirty secret whispered behind closed doors. And that thought was unbearable. Sana had waited long enough. Charm, manipulation, even emotional blackmail had failed. It was time for action. Late one night, in the dimly lit living room of her sleek apartment, Sana scrolled through her phone with trembling fingers. Her heart thudded in her chest, but her resolve was unwavering. She'd done her research. Forums, whispered contacts, the hidden underworld most respectable women pretended didn't exist. But Sana wasn't respectable. She was ambitious, ruthless, dangerous, and tonight, she was making her move. The message was simple. Need a discreet team for a removal job. No blood, no mess, big payout. Within hours, she received a reply. That's how she met Cameron. The meeting took place in the back room of a rundown cafe on the outskirts of the city. It was the kind of place that reeked of cigarette smoke, regret, and unspoken deals. Sana, dressed in designer jeans and an oversized coat, looked wildly out of place among the peeling wallpaper and flickering bulbs. But her confidence never wavered. Cameron arrived, flanked by two men, rugged, street-worn faces, eyes sharp with calculated danger. He was older than Sana expected, early 40s, with a muscular frame, a scar above his left eyebrow, and the cold, unreadable stare of a man who had seen and done terrible things. So, "You're the one with the problem," Cameron remarked, sliding into the seat across from her. Sana straightened her shoulders, meeting his gaze without flinching. "I need someone gone. Quietly, no blood, no drama." Cameron arched an eyebrow, intrigued by her boldness. "Gone, as in dead?" "No," Sana clarified quickly, "just relocated. Out of the picture, for good." He leaned back, studying her. "Pregnant wife?" he asked casually, the smirk curling at the corner of his lips. Sana's heart skipped a beat. How Lady Cameron chuckled darkly. "Your type always has the same story. Rich, married lover, sweet, clueless wife with a bun in the oven. You want the fairy tale, but the wife's in the way." Sana clenched her jaw, swallowing the sting of his words. "Can you do it, or not?" Cameron exchanged a glance with his men, then nodded. "We can do it, but it's not cheap, and we don't do stupid mistakes. No harm to the woman, just extraction." Sana exhaled, relief flooding her. "Money's not a problem." Cameron's eyes glinted with something unreadable. A dangerous curiosity. "You sure you want to go through with this? Once we start, there's no turning back." Sana's lips curled into a confident smile. "I've never been more sure of anything." What Sana didn't know, what her arrogance blinded her to, was that Cameron and his crew had their own set of rules. They weren't loyal to their clients. They weren't bound by contracts or honor. They were opportunists. And Sana, in all her desperation and self-delusion, had just handed them the perfect opportunity. For her, this was a flawless plan. Ariba would vanish, Faison would spiral in grief, and Sana would be there to pick up the pieces. She pictured herself by his side at press conferences, offering support. Her presence slowly evolving from sympathetic friend to grieving partner. With Ariba out of the way, the world would see her as Faison's rightful woman. In her mind, the story unfolded with cinematic perfection. Headlines of tragedy, Faison's vulnerability, her unwavering support. Within months, the mistress would become the wife. Sana's excitement was electric. She could barely contain herself as she wired the first payment, arranged for updates, and meticulously followed Cameron's instructions. Everything felt like it was falling into place, finally. But beneath the surface, a different plan was brewing. Cameron and his men weren't interested in playing by Sana's script. They'd seen her type before, wealthy, entitled, foolish enough to think money bought control. But in their world, the client was never really in charge. Cameron saw an opportunity far bigger than Sana's petty jealousy. Faison Khan wasn't just some rich businessman, he was connected, powerful, and careless. And now, thanks to his mistress's stupidity, Cameron had leverage over him, his wife, and the entire tangled web they called a life. The job wasn't just about removing Ariba anymore, it was about flipping the chessboard entirely. Sana, lost in her fantasies of triumph, remained blissfully unaware. She celebrated in advance, shopping for new clothes, practicing subtle remarks to Faison's friends, picturing her future dripping in luxury and status. To her, the plan was flawless. To Cameron, it was just the beginning of a much darker, much more profitable game. And as the shadows closed in on Ariba's quiet world, the wheels of betrayal, greed, and deception began turning faster than anyone could stop. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a deep crimson hue over the city as Ariba made her way back from her doctor's appointment. The soft thrum of the car engine, and the faint lullaby playing from the radio should have been comforting. Yet a tight knot of unease twisted in her chest. The doctor's words echoed in her mind. The baby was healthy. Strong, but even that reassurance couldn't shake the creeping anxiety that had shadowed her. For weeks, the roads were quieter than usual. Her driver, Ahmed, maneuvered the sleek black SUV through winding lanes as the city lights flickered to life. Ariba cradled her belly instinctively, her fingers tracing absent circles over the curve. She couldn't explain the dread building inside her, only that something felt wrong. She wasn't wrong, as the car slowed near a traffic signal on a dimly lit street. The world shattered in an instant. A black van screeched to a halt beside them, its tires screeching against the asphalt. Before Ahmed could react, masked men poured out, armed and aggressive. Shouts filled the air. The driver barely had time to reach for the lock before the window exploded under the force of a baton. Glass rained down as the door was yanked open. "Get her," barked a rough voice. Kamran Ariba screamed, her body locking up in terror. Her pulse pounded in her ears as strong arms grabbed her, dragging her from the vehicle. Ahmed fought back, but he was outnumbered, knocked unconscious within seconds. Ariba's cries sliced through the night, her vision swimming with fear as the masked figures overpowered her. "Let me go, please, I'm pregnant," she sobbed, her voice cracking with desperation. But they didn't care, or so she thought. Kamran gripped her arm, his face partially concealed beneath a balaclava. But even through the shadows, his eyes were unnervingly calm, too calm for a simple kidnapper. "Relax, sweetheart," he muttered, shoving her toward the van. "It's not what you think." But it was worse. Ariba struggled, her heart hammering violently against her ribs. But the reality settled like ice in her veins. She was being taken against her will, and no one, not even Faison, knew where she was. Panic clawed at her throat as they forced her into the back of the van, slamming the door shut. The vehicle sped off, swallowing her screams in its rumbling engine. Inside the van, darkness enveloped her, broken only by the faint glow of a phone screen, as Kamran typed rapidly. She pressed herself into a corner, trembling, her mind racing with questions. Who were these men? Why her? Was it random? Or something far more sinister? Her blood ran cold as bits of conversation drifted through the van. "She doesn't even know," one of them snickered. "Rich fools. They never do," another replied. Kamran remained silent, tapping on his phone, a ghost of a smirk playing on his lips. It didn't take long for Ariba to connect the dots. These weren't ordinary criminals. They knew her. They knew about her. And worse, they knew more than they should. Her pregnancy, her routines, even details of her doctor's appointment. The realization sent a fresh wave of nausea through her. This wasn't random. This was personal. Hours later, in the quiet of an unfamiliar abandoned building on the outskirts of the city, Ariba sat bound to a chair, her wrists aching beneath the restraints. The fear remained, but it had been joined by something else, suspicion. As Kamran's crew moved around the room, setting up phones and pacing with calculated ease, Ariba listened intently. They weren't discussing ransom. They weren't panicking like amateurs. Their conversations hinted at a larger plan, one that didn't fully align with the standard kidnapping narrative. And then she heard it. "Madame Sana will think it's all wrapped up," one of the men snorted, "but she's just another pawn." Ariba's breath hitched. Sana. The name sliced through her thoughts like a blade. It all made sense now. The distant husband, the subtle threats, the cold glares. Sana Fazin's mistress had orchestrated this. But what terrified Ariba more was the knowledge that these men weren't blindly loyal to Sana either. They had their own agenda. Meanwhile, across town, Sana celebrated prematurely. Dressed in silk, sipping expensive champagne, she twirled around her apartment, her laughter echoing off the walls. Her phone buzzed, a simple message from Kamran. "It's done." Relief flooded her. Finally, the obstacle was gone. Faison's loyalty, his world, his attention, all hers now. She envisioned the pity-filled looks at social gatherings, the comforting whispers of friends, Faison crumbling into her arms, broken by grief. Sana smiled at her reflection. running her fingers through her glossy hair. Victory tasted sweet. Little did she know, the sweet aftertaste masked the bitter poison brewing beneath the surface. In her arrogance, she believed she had eliminated her competition, but in truth, she had just handed control to men far more dangerous and far less predictable than herself, and the game was only beginning. The abandoned warehouse was eerily quiet, the only sounds being the occasional creak of rusted metal and the steady drip of water echoing from a leaky pipe above. Ariba sat in the corner, still bound, her body stiff with fear and exhaustion. The ropes bit into her skin, but it was the gnawing dread in her chest that truly suffocated her. Hours had passed, maybe more time felt distorted inside these walls, but one thing was clear. These men weren't following Sana's orders blindly. They had their own, far more dangerous plan. Across the room, Cameron leaned casually against a table, his arms crossed, eyes trained on his phone as he scrolled through Faison Khan's public profile, his lips curled into a knowing smirk. 1,000 unspoken memories swirling beneath his rugged exterior. Cameron wasn't new to this world of shadows and schemes. His journey into the criminal underworld hadn't begun with greed. It had begun with betrayal. Years ago, he had been just another hard-working man trying to build a life for his family. His younger brother, Sod, ambitious and idealistic, had landed a job in the corporate world, the very world where men like Faison Khan reigned supreme. But Sod's ambition had cost him his life. Cameron never forgot the headlines. Young employee found dead after corporate scandal. The whispers that followed spoke of cover-ups, of scapegoats, of powerful men burying their mistakes under piles of money. Faison Khan's name had floated to the surface more than once, but justice had never come. Cameron's grief curdled into rage, and that rage, over time, became something far colder, calculated vengeance. So when Sana came knocking, blinded by jealousy and desperation, Cameron saw the perfect opportunity. It wasn't just about money now, it was about control. It was about exposing the filth behind polished reputations, and it was about making and his scheming mistress pay. "We're not just puppets in her little love story," Cameron muttered to his crew, eyes never leaving his phone. "We flip the script, we make them both dance." Ariba's ears perked up at the conversation. Her pulse quickened as fragments of their plan reached her. Sana had set this up. But now they were turning on her too. Cameron crafted the message with precision. A video clip of Ariba, bound and visibly shaken, played softly on his phone. Her face, pale but defiant, was clear enough for anyone to recognize. The message was sent directly to Fair Zed. It arrived in the dead of night. Fair was in his home office, nursing a glass of whiskey, the weight of his tangled double life pressing heavily on his chest. His phone buzzed, expecting a work call or one of Sana's needy late-night texts. He glanced at the screen and froze. The video played in stunned silence. Ariba, terrified, bound the background unrecognizable, her voice muffled by tape. Then came the voice, low, calm, dangerous. "We have your wife, Faison Khan, and before you call the police, you should know, this wasn't random. Your mistress, Sana, she made this happen. But now, we're running the show." Faison's blood ran cold. His glass slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor as he stumbled back in disbelief. His mind raced, heart thundering in his chest. Sana. The woman he trusted with his secrets. The woman he foolishly believed cared for him. His phone buzzed again, a follow-up message with clear instructions. "One wrong move. Your wife and your entire empire burn together. You'll hear from us soon." Panic seized Faison as the walls of his carefully crafted life caved in. Betrayal from his mistress. His pregnant wife's life hanging in the balance. The gravity of his selfishness and lies crashed down like a tidal wave. Meanwhile, in the warehouse, Kamran watched the delivery status with satisfaction. Time to let the rich boy squirm. He muttered, but the twisted brilliance of their plan didn't end with Faison. Kamran's team had also gathered damning evidence, recordings of Sana's arrangement, payments, and detailed proof of her involvement, she wouldn't be spared. She had opened this door, and Cameron intended to drag her through it, exposed, humiliated, ruined. Ariba, still captive, pieced the story together with growing horror. Tears welled in her eyes, not just from fear, but from the crushing realization of how deeply Faison had betrayed her, and how far Sana's obsession had spiraled. It wasn't just a love affair anymore, it was a war, and she was caught in the middle, a pawn, used and discarded by the people she thought she knew. Her mind raced with questions. Could Faison save her? Would he even try? Or was he too entangled in his lies to do anything but protect himself? And what about Sana? Would she bury the truth, or be buried by it? As Cameron paced, his phone buzzed, another message, this time. From Sana, is it done? Where's the proof? I want confirmation. Cameron chuckled darkly, typing his reply. It's done all right. But you'll get your proof soon. Sweetheart, be patient. Sana, drunk on her own self-delusion, had no idea the tables had already turned. Ariba closed her eyes, breathing shakily, feeling the faint flutter of life within her. Her baby innocent, unaware of the chaos outside this dark, suffocating room. If nothing else, she had to survive for her child. But survival meant strength, and information was strength. Quietly, she memorized every face, every whispered word. She wasn't just a helpless victim, not anymore. Across the city, sat paralyzed, staring at the screen, the weight of his sins finally sinking in, and Sana, blissfully ignorant, still celebrating her false victory. Unaware that the perfect crime she thought she orchestrated was now the rope tightening around her own neck. The kidnappers held all the cards, and soon, they would make everyone, Sana, Faison, and Ariba pay the price. The first hours of captivity had broken down Ariba's body, but not her spirit. Her wrists ached from the tight ropes. Her cheeks were streaked with dried tears, and the damp chill of the warehouse clung to her skin like a second layer. Yet beneath the fear and exhaustion, something else stirred, a quiet, unyielding determination. Ariba had spent too long being underestimated. First by Faison, who thought his lies could stay hidden. Then by Sana, who saw her as nothing more than a disposable obstacle. And now, by these kidnappers, who believed she was weak, just another wealthy housewife. Fragile and afraid. But they had all made the same mistake. Ariba wasn't helpless. Her mind sharpened with each passing hour, cataloging every detail, their routines, the layout of the warehouse, the interactions between the men. Most of all, she noticed him, the youngest among them, barely older than a teenager, with nervous eyes and a fidgeting posture that screamed inexperience. His name was Betrayal. Betrayal hovered on the edges of the group, following orders, but never participating in the cruel jabs or threatening words. His gaze lingered on Ariba, often not with malice, but with uncertainty. She saw it, the doubt, the quiet discomfort with what they were doing. It was her way in. The next time they brought her water, it was Betrayal who approached, hesitating as he set the plastic bottle near her. His hands trembled slightly, and for a brief second, their eyes met. Please, Ariba whispered, her voice hoarse but steady. You don't have to be part of this. Betrayal flinched, glancing nervously over his shoulder. Don't talk to me, he stammered. But the crack was there. Over the next 2 days, Ariba carefully built the foundation of her escape, not with force, but with empathy and quiet manipulation. She spoke softly when Betrayal was near, asking about his family, reminding him that she was pregnant, that her child's life was at stake. She saw the conflict in his eyes grow. Meanwhile, she listened, observed, gathered fragments of their plan. She learned that Cameron wasn't just after ransom, this was revenge, a game of power and humiliation aimed at Sana and Faison. Ariba was a pawn, but a valuable one. Her resilience grew with each small victory, memorizing guard schedules, noting that Betrayal often handled her meals, realizing that one of the windows, high above, had a faulty latch. Her maternal instincts fueled her every move. This wasn't just about saving herself, it was about protecting the innocent life growing inside her. Finally, on the fourth night, the opportunity came. Betrayal entered quietly, setting down food, his gaze lingering with visible guilt. "You don't want blood on your hands," Ariba whispered urgently. "Help me, please." For a moment, silence hung thick between them. Then, with trembling fingers, Betrayal slipped a small blade from his pocket, placing it on the floor beside her before retreating wordlessly. Hope surged in Ariba's chest. She wasn't out yet. But for the first time, the walls closing in didn't feel so permanent, and neither did her chains. For a brief, shining moment, Sana believed she had one. She strutted through her luxury apartment, scrolling through social media, basking in the silence that followed. Ariba's disappearance. Faison was frantic, just as she had predicted, cold, distant, breaking under pressure. Soon, he would come running to her, seeking comfort, craving stability, and when he did, she would be there, beautiful, composed, ready to take her place as the rightful woman by his side. But the silence didn't last. It shattered with the sharp buzz of her phone. The first message was a video, grainy but unmistakable. It showed Sana sitting at a table with Kamran, sliding an envelope of cash across to him, her face clear, her words audible. "I want her gone. No blood, just disappear her, you understand?" Sana's heart dropped into her stomach. Her fingers trembled as she replayed the clip, a cold sweat breaking across her back. This couldn't be happening. This was supposed to be hidden, private, controlled. Before she could react, her phone lit up again. News alerts, social media posts, police statements, wealthy businessman's wife, abducted mistress allegedly involved. Exclusive, leaked footage links Sana Ali to kidnapping plot. Sana's world cracked apart in an instant. Her name splashed across every screen, her face plastered beside words like obsession, affair, betrayal. The carefully constructed image she had built. The poised, successful woman dissolved into scandalous headlines. And public outrage. Panic seized her. She dialed. "Fair Finn." It rang twice. Before he answered, his voice a dangerous mixture of fury and disgust. "You've destroyed everything," he hissed. "You set this in motion, and now look where we are." Sana's lips quivered. "Faison, listen, don't," he cut her off coldly. "The police, no. The media knows. The whole damn city knows. You've made me a laughingstock. You've put Ariba's life in danger." His words sliced through her like shards of glass. "But I did this for us," Sana choked, the illusion crumbling as fear took hold. I just wanted you, wanted my wife gone. You wanted my life," Faison snapped. "And now, you've ruined yours." The line went dead. Sana's pulse raced as reality closed in. The building was crawling with reporters. Police vehicles lined the street. Her phone buzzed relentlessly with calls from unknown numbers, threats, insults, demands. Her options evaporated like smoke. Frantically, she packed a small bag, cash, fake IDs, essentials. Her plan to run was born of sheer desperation, but it was already too late. She wasn't out yet, but for the first time. The walls closing in didn't feel so permanent, and neither did her chains. For a brief, shining moment, Sana believed she had one. She strutted through her luxury apartment, scrolling through social media, basking in the silence that followed Ariba's disappearance. Faison was frantic, just as she had predicted, cold, distant, breaking under pressure. Soon, he would come running to her, seeking comfort, craving stability, and when he did, she would be there, beautiful, composed, ready to take her place as the rightful woman by his side. But the silence didn't last. It shattered with the sharp buzz of her phone. The first message was a video, grainy but unmistakable. It showed Sana sitting at a table with Kamran, sliding an envelope of cash across to him, her face clear, her words audible. "I want her gone. No blood, just disappear her, you understand?" Sana's heart dropped into her stomach. Her fingers trembled as she replayed the clip, a cold sweat breaking across her back. This couldn't be happening. This was supposed to be hidden, private, controlled, Before she could react, her phone lit up again. News alerts, social media posts, police statements, wealthy businessman's wife, abducted mistress, allegedly involved. Exclusive leaked footage links Sana Ali to kidnapping. Plot: Sana's world cracked apart in an instant. Her name splashed across every screen, her face plastered beside words like obsession, affair, betrayal. The carefully constructed image she had built, the poised, successful woman, dissolved into scandalous headlines. And public outrage. Panic seized her. She dialed Van. It rang twice before he answered, his voice a dangerous mixture of fury and disgust. "You've destroyed everything," he hissed. "You set this in motion, and now look where we are." Lips quivered. "Faison, listen, don't." He cut her off coldly. "The police know, the media knows. The whole damn city knows. You've made me a laughingstock. You've put Ariba's life in danger." His words sliced through her like shards of glass. "But I did this for us," Sana choked, the illusion crumbling as fear took hold. I just wanted you, wanted my wife gone. You wanted my life," Faison snapped. "And now you've ruined yours." The line went dead. Sana's pulse raced as reality closed in. The building was crawling with reporters. Police vehicles lined the street. Her phone buzzed relentlessly with calls from unknown numbers, threats, insults, demands. Her options evaporated like smoke. Frantically, she packed a small bag, cash, fake IDs, essentials. Her plan to run was born of sheer desperation. But it was already too late. The pounding on the door echoed through the apartment, followed by the sharp command of law enforcement. "Sana Ali, open the door. You are under investigation." Sana. Knees buckled. The walls, once symbols of success, now felt like a prison closing in around her. She stumbled to the window, eyes scanning for escape, but the streets were swarmed with flashing lights and cameras. There was nowhere to hide. Tears blurred her vision as her reflection stared back from the glass. The proud, confident mistress, replaced by a broken, humiliated shell. She thought she could control the narrative. She thought obsession was love, but all she had done was orchestrate her own downfall. The very people she trusted, the men she paid, had turned the spotlight on her. Her secrets, her manipulation, her hunger for Faison's world, all laid bare for everyone to see. Sana sank to the floor, clutching her head as sobs racked her body. The mistress who believed she could steal someone else's life was now losing her own, piece by piece, and there was no turning back. The warehouse pulsed with tension as Kamran prepared his final move. The plan, months in the making, had unfolded better than he could have imagined. Sana exposed Faison humiliated, the entire city gripped by scandal. But Kamran wasn't finished. He wanted the world to see the full extent of their corruption, every betrayal, every lie. With a click, he opened his laptop, streaming the final video message live to social media. The screen filled with damning evidence, recordings of Sana's deal, financial transactions, even private footage of Faison's hidden meetings and phone calls with his mistress. The polished facade of their upper-class lives shattered in real time. As millions watched, appalled. In the background, Ariba listened, her heart racing. The chaos was her chance. Bilal, the young, sympathetic kidnapper, hovered nearby. His face pale, his nerves frayed. Ariba seized the moment, whispering urgently, "Please, help me. It's now or never." Bilal hesitated only a second before slipping a small pocketknife into her bound hands. Her fingers fumbled, adrenaline surging as she soared through the ropes, each second feeling like an eternity. Around them, Kamran and the others were too distracted. Phones buzzing, news alerts flooding in. The sirens outside growing louder by the second. Freedom was within reach. Suddenly, the warehouse door burst open, a wave of armed officers storming in, shouting commands. "Police, drop your weapons. Hands where we can see them." Panic erupted. Kamran snarled in frustration, but even he knew the game was over. His men were tackled to the ground, weapons confiscated, handcuffs clicking into place. Ariba stumbled to her feet, her legs weak but determination propelling her forward. An officer spotted her, rushing to her side. "Ma'am, you're safe now, we've got you," he reassured. But Ariba barely heard him. Her eyes scanned the room, desperate for one thing: her family.